Hello, it's Karl Brauer and I'm standing in front of the 2024 Hyundai Ioniq 5N. Now this is the performance version of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. It's of course an all-electric car with all-wheel drive, and in this form, with all the power it's got, it costs $67,500. A big jump from the mid-40s to mid-50s for the lower performance versions of this car. But this one does give you a lot of extra bang for your buck. It has 601 horsepower, and it's got a little button on the steering wheel that for 10-second bursts, it'll give you 641 horsepower. It's also got 568 pound-feet of torque, and it is capable of 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat, which is full-on supercar territory, as we all know. Now, this is impressive because the car is not a light car. In fact, it weighs 4,871 pounds. You're asking that motor to pull a lot of weight around, asking that battery pack to do a lot of work, which is probably why it's only got about a 250-mile range on a full charge. And that was a challenge for me, but we're going to get to that in a second. Other elements of this car that have been upgraded include lowering its ride height by about 0.6 inches and lowered seat height. It's 1.6 inches lower. Hyundai did that because they want you to feel like you're driving low and in the car versus on the car. And that's not a bad design. Performance fans like that. It also has all new suspension. It's got a stiffened chassis. They put in more welds and more adhesives and gave it 11% increase in torsional rigidity. You've got more power, you've got a lower ride height, you've got a lower seat height, and you've got actually a longer body too. This thing is about 3 inches longer than the regular Hyundai Ioniq N because there's a bunch of effort to get the aero going. The front end has got more efficient aero to pull it down at higher speeds, and the back end has a really pretty substantial rear splitter to pull the back of the car down at higher speeds. It certainly has all the ingredients that you're looking for in a performance version. And of course it is the N, and you see it all through this car, whether you want to talk about the red highlights or maybe the N in the seat back. It's got a bigger steering wheel, a thicker steering wheel. It's got that orange button, the NGB button, which actually stands for N grin button, and that's your 10-second boost in power. Lots of performance themes going on throughout this car. Clearly the Hyundai Ioniq 5N has the pedigree to be a great performance car, but how does it actually drive? Well, I've driven it and I'm noticing things like the quicker steering ratio that this one's got compared to the standard Hyundai Ioniq 5. I'm noticing that it's got performance tires, Pirelli P0 tires on 21-inch wheels, and those things are wrapped around 15.7-inch front brake rotors for stopping power, and you're feeling all of that when you drive the car. It stops extremely confidently despite nearly 5,000-pound curb weight, and it steers rapidly, and it's got a lot of grip. So all these elements that Hyundai has strung together certainly manifest when you drive the car, and it feels kind of ridiculously fast, certainly unnecessarily fast. What are the downsides of the car, if any? Well, anyone who knows me knows that I'm kind of a stickler for curb weight. I just don't want to wrestle more than a 2-ton car around corners. I really don't want to wrestle more than about a 3,500-pound car around corners. This one weighs almost 5,000 pounds. That's a lot of weight, and regardless of lap times, as I always say, just because a car pulls a fast lap time doesn't mean it's fun to do. It's fun doing that lap time. It doesn't mean it's a fun car to drive when it's pulling that lap time. And I can already tell from how aggressively I've driven this car that you can feel the 5,000 pounds. There's no getting around it. The physics are annoying that way. Another interesting component of this car is the level of adjustability, the level of settings, the level of modes that you can engage. It's almost a paradox of choice. I mean, there are so many things that you can change on this car, and that includes sound. You can make all this noise with this car. You can try to make it sound like a performance car. You can even make it try to simulate shifts and hitting red line, and power cuts off because it hits red line and you have to upshift and there's a bouncing off the red line. It's an electric car. None of this is real. It's all fake. And again, kind of like my philosophy about weight, I have a philosophy about noise. And in my mind, if there's ever drivetrain noise coming from an amplifier and or a speaker, that's a bad thing. So I've got the sound going right now, and again, it's not really adding to my experience behind the wheel. It's kind of annoying. The only real advantage electric cars have over internal combustion is their ultra quiet, smooth lack of NVH, noise, vibration, harshness, is non-existent because there's no explosions going off near your head like in most cars. So that's the whole point to me of an electric car, and to drag internal combustion noises, fake internal combustion noises, back into the equation, it's really goofy. I'm sorry. I know all there's enthusiasts out there like, oh man, the Hyundai Ioniq the Hyundai Ioniq 5, it makes these cool noises and stuff. It's like, no, noises in an electric car aren't cool. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. They're just not cool. There are plenty of people out there who have fallen in love with this. They think that it's so cool that there's all these different noises that this car will make. I'm not into it, okay? To me, what that feels like is it feels like a new technology trying to hold the hand of old people who can't move forward, okay? I've got issues with electric cars, mostly the range, and we're gonna get into that in a second, that all of them suffer from, and also the high weight that all of them suffer from. Those are the things that I'm not a fan of. The fact that they don't make engine noise, they're not exploding things under the hood. There's no explosions going on to power the car. So don't try to make it sound like there are explosions going on, okay? This is the future, guys. If you really want to move into the future, you got to wave bye-bye to engine noise and exhaust noise. It's gone, okay? Just deal with it. Don't sound like the old fart. It's like, well, I want my electric car to make noise. Really? Do you want your TV to still have like snow on it when you get a bad signal? Does that make you more comfortable, or would you just like a high definition TV that always has a great picture, okay? One of the advantages of electric cars, besides the instant torque that they have and the complete lack of NVH, is also, again, their smooth delivery of power and the fact that there is no hesitation or peakiness to their power curve. They just go. And that's the advantage. The disadvantage is they don't have as much pulse, literal pulse going on. They don't have as much emotion going on. This is the future, guys. Deal with it. Don't try to like band-aid it with a bunch of fake noise, okay? That's just my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see if other automakers try to jump on the bandwagon, because so many people are saying that they love this noise effect and these kind of simulated transmissions and driving experiences that this car does. But I kept them off the whole time. I tried them out for a few seconds just to confirm that it did that, and then I turned them all off and never turned them on again. That's just me. We've covered the performance this car offers, which is substantial. We've covered a lot of the performance features it offers, which is substantial. Let's talk about the more boring things that nobody wants to talk about, but there's just no getting away from when you're driving an electric car. And that is the functionality of using it as a car. You're not at the track trying to pull the best lap time. You're not drag racing, internal combustion cars and laughing at them because you've got all-wheel drive and you can pull 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, even on an unprepped surface. And this is the challenge of all electric cars, performance-oriented or not. At some point, you have to refuel them, as you might say. And in a gasoline car, it's a 5 to 7 minute process from a wide network of options. In an electric car, you've got to find a charger. You've got to hope the charger's operating. You've got to hope there isn't a bunch of people in front of you keeping it from being useful to you. And you've got to hope the pay system works, okay? I dealt with all of that while I had this car, and it was kind of annoying. I happened to have this car on a loan period where I needed a real car as much or more than I needed a performance car. I had multiple runs to and from Los Angeles, from Orange County, where I'm standing right now, and range anxiety was pretty much a constant issue. This car only has around a 250-mile range when it's fully charged. And I wasn't even driving it. In fact, I was hypermiling it up to LA because I was worried about the range. I found a level 2 charger up there, thankfully, when I got there and plugged it in, and that gave me just enough to get back. But it was just enough. Then there was a local charging station near me, an Electrify America level 3 fast charger that's relatively close to me, and I got over there with 7 miles left, and it wasn't working. There was no way to use it. This was, by the way, after I'd gone to a different one that was a little further away that made sense because of where I was driving, and it had a queue of 4 people waiting on top of the 4 chargers that were there and in use. So I dealt with the inability to use one because it was too loaded up with people and I'd had to wait hours just to start the process. I dealt with them not working. Then at the one that didn't have any working ones, the closest to me, there was a level 2 that was working, but the credit card reader wasn't working. And I was down to 6 miles when I got there, and there was another one to try 6 miles away, a level 3 Electrify America charger. I wasn't going to leave with a 6-mile distance to go with 6 miles on the battery range. So I got the card reader, and I realized it wouldn't work either for my credit card. But if I went through the process of signing up for an Electrify America account and got the app, and then put my credit card in there, then I could hold my phone near it and get the level 2 charger, the only one working near my house, to work. And then I sat in it for almost a half an hour and got up to 8 miles range. Then I unplugged, limped it over to the other one, and thankfully I had someone else who was dealing with the same challenge. I ran into her at the initial place. She went over to the other one and was texting me, telling me that there was an open slot after her and that I could come over there and that it was working, so that I wouldn't go over there and find out that that one wasn't working or had a big line, and I was done because I had no range left. It was a laborious, stressful, time-consuming process. By the way, I started the process of trying to fill this car back up with energy at about 5 o'clock, and I got home after 8 o'clock, after all the running around I just described to you. So 3 hours, how I spent my Friday night in the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. I wasn't pulling cool lap times. I wasn't beating up on internal combustion cars in drag races. I was running around trying to charge it up, okay? Now, everyone's gonna say, well, I have a home charger, it's not an issue. That's great. I'm glad you have a home charger. Plenty of people don't own their house and they can't put a home charger in. And even people who do own their house and have a home charger at some point are gonna have to go more than 200 miles away because something comes up. And if they've got multiple car fleets, then they're covered there. But again, this is the challenge that you have. You have to have all these things in place before something like a 250-mile range is not an issue. And if you need a real car, not a fast lap time car, not a fast 0 to 60 car, not a cool, sounds like a jet engine car, but a functional car to get around, and you don't have more than 250-mile range, you're going to be dealing with this at some point. You're going to deal with what I had to deal with while I had this car. And does it sound like that experience kind of wrecked my whole loan of this otherwise cool-looking, fun Hyundai Ioniq 5N? That's good, it did. It kind of wrecked my entire experience of the cool loan of the Hyundai 5. Having to deal with that for hours at a time was really annoying. And it reminded me why I have a car at home that has over 1,000 horsepower and I can fill it up anywhere I want. And by the way, when I finally got it charged up at that Electrify America account, it was $50. I had to use $50 because we know that level 3 charging is the most expensive. So it took $50 to fill this thing up for a 250-mile range. I can put E85 in my Dodge Demon for $3.19 a gallon because it's so cheap. I'd get about 16 gallons of gas. That's a full tank in that car. And if I'm not hammering it, I'm going to get 200 plus miles out of the Dodge Demon, 200 plus miles with 1,000 horsepower. And then I'm going to fix the problem when I'm running low in 5 to 7 minutes at a gas station. I like the concept behind the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, and I like the performance, and I think it looks good. And by the way, it's very roomy inside, front and rear. It looks like a hot hatch, but it's really too big to be a hot hatch. They're calling it an SUV. That's a stretch. It's a big hot hatch is what it is. But it's a big roomy hot hatch, lots of space inside, and a very plush interior too. Good interior material qualities. Rear seat space is great. Cargo space is great. We verified the car's incredible functionality and its performance and all the toys that you can do and all the settings you can make to have fun with it. But it's still an electric car, and that still presents the challenges that I'm just not ready to deal with. In fact, think about what you're supposed to do to this car. You're supposed to take it out and drive it on twisty roads or maybe a track. Well, what if that track's kind of far away? How much time are you going to have to spend not just getting it to and from the track, but charging it to enjoy it on the track and get back? My example is pretty clear. Mount Palomar is down east of San Diego. It's one of the best driving roads around here. It's my favorite road to go on. I would take a car like this on that road normally. That's where I take all my supercars and all my other performance cars when I'm testing them. This car never made it there. Why? Because it's 91 miles each direction. That's 182 miles before I've started to actually go up and down the mountain and enjoy it in one of its high performance driving modes. I have no idea about the charging network down there. I don't know if I'm going to find a charger, if it's going to be loaded up with other people and run in front of me that I have to wait for. I don't know if it's going to be working. I don't know if the pace system's going to be working. All the things I've dealt with in the last 72 hours driving this car around. So there you go. Lots of performance capability. Now I want to go out and experience it. I need to go a distance to get there, or even it's close, but the way I'm driving it is eating up the 250-mile range in like 70 miles or 110 miles. All that potential, kind of goes up in smoke when you're trying to enjoy the car. Or maybe not smoke, maybe it's lithium ion, I don't know. It goes up in something other than confident fun. I'm gonna stick with internal combustion because when I have an internal combustion car, it doesn't matter how quickly I'm eating up the fuel supply, solving its power problem takes 5 to 10 minutes from a wide array of available service stations. These cars are great, and when someday we have electric vehicles with longer ranges and more power-dense batteries that are lighter and faster charging, they'll make internal combustion cars obsolete. We're not there yet, and I'm sticking with internal combustion, at least for now. Right now I'm experiencing what an electric car should be. Super fast and super refined. Okay, now I'm gonna put on the little N noise mode. And I'm gonna wonder what the hell I'm doing, okay? It just doesn't make any sense to me, okay? It's like we're trying to bridge the gap between old farts like me, who are only comfortable with exhaust noise and engine noise, and the modern world of super refined, super torquey, powerful electric vehicles. And it reminds me of hybrid vehicles that have the ability to let humans control when the electric motor versus the internal combustion engine is working. And guess when those vehicles consistently get the best fuel efficiency? When the humans get out of the way. When you put it in full auto and eco mode and you let the computer decide when you're using electric versus internal combustion power. That's when they get, and anytime you're messing with it as the operator, you screw up the fuel efficiency. Trust me, I've played with them before. Same thing with these cars. If I'm gonna start having fake shift points and fake engine noise and try to control it like it's a traditional internal combustion car, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be slower 0 to 60 and slower around a track because I'm screwing up the ability of the car to do the best possible acceleration. Put this thing in its most aggressive driving mode, turn off all the driver interference that I can give it, and let it do its thing. And I'm gonna get my best acceleration and lap times out of it. So, no need for all of these gimmicks. I don't, thank you. This is what I want in an electric car. Power, speed, and as little in noise, vibration, harshness as possible. If I want noise, vibration, harshness, which honestly I kind of do, but if I really do, I go get in my Dodge Demon and I experience it. I don't falsify it in an electric car like this one's trying to do. It doesn't work for me, sorry.